Welcome to the October 2021 Los Angeles Post-Production Group, introducing iZotope RX9.
I want to introduce Ryan Vig. Ryan is the Senior Product Marketing Manager. Welcome, Ryan. Thank you for being here.
Hello, everyone. As Wendy said, I'm Ryan Vig, Senior Product Marketing Manager for Audio Post Products at iZotope. We are very excited to introduce you to RX9 tonight and want to thank you for attending this LAPPG launch event. We appreciate you taking the time to be here. And thank you, Wendy and Woody, for having us tonight. It's such an honor. We also sincerely hope you and yours are doing well in this truly crazy time and staying busy through it all the way. I'm going to kick tonight off by playing a quick video we've made for RX9.
Introducing RX9. Featuring complex ambience match. Capture real background movement and textures with this new mode in Ambience Match. Now you can easily match scenes with rain, ocean, crowds, traffic, and more. And enhanced separation with Dialog Isolate. With new machine learning, Dialog Isolate makes it even easier to instantly extract the noisiest dialogue, artifact-free, all while preserving the underlying ambience. With reimagined dynamic DeHum, in just one click, automatically remove any amount of hum, ring, or harmonic interference without affecting the audio quality. Plus, we've added a new restore feature to roll back any selection to a previous history step. Get the best combined audio processing at one point in time, as well as an expandable history list for easier referencing. RX9, the industry standard for audio repair.
Before we get in, I want to thank our principal DSP engineer who's worked on RX since the very beginning, Alex Lukin, for being here tonight. He's going to help with the Q&As, especially if they get fairly technical. And I'm sure you'd all like to see this new stuff in action. But before we do, for the best experience of RX9, we highly recommend headphones unless you happen to be in front of some high-quality studio monitors, which I would not be surprised if many of us are. And now, let's pass it over to the multi-talented dialogue editor, supervisor, and mixer from works like Dunkirk, Argo, and the upcoming Dune, and so much more. And I almost forgot, a phenomenal drummer, which you'll see in his studio here, Dave Bach.
Thanks, Ryan. Good to see you. Thanks, Wendy. Thanks, Woody. And welcome, everybody. And thanks to iZotope. So I've been working on RX9 for just a couple of weeks now and finding all sorts of cool stuff going on. We're going to look at Ambience Match first. And for those of you, I imagine most of you know what this is, but this has been incredibly handy. It's been out for a number of versions now. And I really, I can testify, did kind of freak out and call a bunch of other dialogue editors. I think it came out in 4 maybe, and said, you won't believe this. This is incredible. Like, it just automatically makes fill. And it's gotten us through a lot of stuff when it's difficult to find matching. We're often trying to get in and out cleanly from very disparate sounding takes. And so we need the fill from one side, we need the fill so we can cross and make it sound nice and smooth. One issue with a lot of the automatic fill generators was that it was sounding a bit sort of white noise-ish. It had unnatural, it was a little unnatural in its lack of movement. So this is something that has been addressed in this version, and it's kind of cool. It's pretty exciting. So what I want to show you here is something that I probably wouldn't actually use in the movie for a variety of reasons. We'll talk about it. But this is a clip from the movie Dunkirk. Sorry, not a video clip, but an audio clip from some of the group. And most of the group in Dunkirk, I was fortunate enough to be able to go over to England, and we shot most of the group on the HMS Belfast on a ship docked in the River Thames, and it's a museum during the day, but we got all evening to have free run of the place. We brought a dozen appropriate foot-attired young British men to come in and be all the soldiers. And prior to doing that, however, we did a in-studio session, and I wanted to, as I often do, sort of worldize it, and I re-record it in my yard. So I will play the in-studio material and then set a mic at various distances and get some natural outside sound. So what I'm going to play for you is that. This has some natural outside sound recorded in my yard. Now for Dunkirk, we wouldn't want these crickets, but it was a reasonable example for this. So here I'm going to play you this.
Check stations. Confirm clear. All right, all clear. You'll have to do a better job next time.
Now, say we wanted this fill, which has some air, has a little hum, and it has crickets of two different sorts. Turns out we don't want that for Dunkirk, but it's going to be helpful for our demonstration here. So what I'm going to try to do is make some fill here using the new ambience, and I'll compare the new to the old static version, the complex and static, and we're going to see what it does. If, for example, if we started with the old one, we could hit that, and if we preview this, or if we go ahead and render this, this is the old version, and it sounds like this.
Confirm clear. All right, all clear.
And it's pretty good, and it would be useful in many situations. But what it doesn't have are the crickets and these other little guys up here that you see. So check out with the complex version, what this can do. We're going to pick out a section, and this, as I've been playing with this, what we're finding, it's doing a lot. But if I just hit this, we have to find the threshold of where it's comfortable with. And if I just hit this, it works pretty well, but sometimes you get some funny little sounds in there that you don't want. And that would be example. So you can kind of hear there's like a little bit of looping in there, and that is easily taken care of. It takes a little bit to get used to because it's a totally new thing. But what I'm finding is that if we go here and we choose these areas, but this area right there, I don't want that. But I want that. I want all this, but I probably don't want that. I might not want that. Gonna want a bunch of this. Probably don't want that. And probably want this too. Now, if we learn that, it's still got some stuff in there. I can see I'm not going to want that. I'm going to take this out a little bit. I'm going to try that. Go here, and here. Now we do something like that. Oops, sorry. Then we learn that. We go back here. We render that entirely. That looks more like it. And if we go, I'm going to try one more. It was still getting a little bit, and I think that's because I hit render twice. So I'm going to go back here, and we've got that learned. We're going to go here and render. And let's see if that's a little better. So you can hear we've got all the crickets, we've got the high-end stuff as well. It would need a little more work for me to get this stuff out right in here, right this area here. And Ryan and I have been going through this a little bit, and we've been discovering getting familiar with what you need to look for in order to get this to work really nicely. So this is something only dialogue editors could get excited about. So matching ambience and getting those exact crickets from my yard. DeHum was not something that I used a whole lot of till now. So I'm going to play you, and I'll put the picture up. It's from a Dimitri Martin movie, which I really was a fan of, called Dune. And they did shoot a lot of practical stuff, and there was a lot of noise issues in there. So this is one of those noise issues, and you can hear a lot of hum going on.
I'm a speech therapist.
Oh.
Yeah. I work with animals.
Communication. How to listen. How to communicate. Reading signals.
Yeah.
Because they can speak. They can communicate. It's been proven time and time again. They are communicating. But we're so blocked. Animal.
So, as you can hear, a whole lot of hum in there. Not the worst thing in the world, but man, it used to be impossible to get stuff like that out. So I'm going to take this first bit, and we're going to look at this example for the next couple of things. So let's look at it for the hum. And we've got, oops. And you can see the hum. You can see it down here. You can also see it up here. That stuff. We got that stuff. And it's right in the range of the dialogue as well. So, with the DeHum, I can show you what it used to do with this in the so-called static mode. And this is the same as what it used to be for RX8. And probably some previous, not sure when they upped it for 8. But in this case, I'm going to show you static mode first, and it looks a bit like this. So we've got this, and we can preview from here.
I'm a speech therapist.
Oh.
Yeah.
And it does a good job of getting this basic hum out. It didn't get it out here, but I can also hear it a bit in the voice. And you'll see what I'm talking about right in these kind of areas too. And you can see that and hear that the voice is affected in these areas. You can also see that it did not touch this stuff up here. So now we're going to go back here, back to this, and we're going to go to the new dynamic mode. And again, we're going to learn some stuff. we are up to the maximum number of bands because, and these others are on kind of their default settings. And check this out.
I'm a speech therapist.
Oh.
Yeah. I work with animals.
And what I'm finding, see, some of you might say, well, I would use Dialog Isolate in that. And I thought about that, and I tried it with both. It removed all of this stuff, but what this left was a very nice bit of air behind it, which I don't find objectionable at all. I like that, in fact. And so the difference, if you needed it really clean, if you needed it without any hum or any of the air, then yeah, Dialog Isolate could absolutely do that. With just attacking the hum, though, that's what we've got here now. And I think this will be really handy in a variety of situations, and I can see it in a lot of music situations too, like old recordings or things like that that have some tape hiss, things like that. So, and you know, broken patch cords from bad transfers. So I'm imagining a lot of uses coming up for this new dynamic DeHum. I was thinking about this, using this same clip as an example of what Dialog Isolate, something that I would use it in often, and you can really hear a difference now in the new one. So it's this portion that has a lot of movement in it. Give you the picture back.
Yeah.
Because they can speak, they can communicate. It's been proven time and time again. They are communicating, but we're so blocked. Animals. No.
So it's got all this seat movement, seatbelt, jacket.
Because they can speak, they can communicate. It's been proven time and time again. They are.
It's not the worst thing, but ideally we'd have separate control over that and be able to turn some of that down. So we're going to play with this a little bit in the new Dialog Isolate. And here's this.
Yeah.
Because they can speak, they can communicate. It's been proven time and time again. They are communicating, but we're so blocked. And
So you can see it's all within the same range as the Dialog. And we can do one of two things. We can de-hum it first, we could de-hum it later, or depending on whether we want that hum or not. So dealing with just the Dialog Isolate, you'll see here now there's a gear. There's a new little gear up here in the corner. And hitting that gives you this option to hit the legacy algorithm. And that goes exactly back to how it worked in 8 and probably 7. And they changed a couple other little things here. You'll see if you go back to legacy, it goes back to the advanced joint channel as the names. And in my view, this is an upgrade. Now it says good and best. And that is a little more straightforward. So probably a lot of you are familiar with the magic that Dialog Isolate can do, but we're going to look at the legacy first. And I'm going to show you in a way that I would normally do. So I'm going to actually do some ambience preservation. I'm going to put the sensitivity about in the middle. I'm going to go to the highest thing, the advanced joint. And we're going to see what it does here. Because I wouldn't normally take out every bit of noise unless it was really objectionable. With this, I just want to kind of turn it down against the Dialog. So that would look like this and sound like this.
because they can speak, they can communicate. It's been proven time and time again. They are communicating.
And if you want to go, maybe we'd go a little further than that.
can speak, they can communicate. It's been proven time and time again. They are communicating, but we're so blocked. Animals. No. Because they can speak, they can communicate. It's been proven time and time again. They are.
Yeah.
Because they can speak, they can communicate. It's been proven time and time again. They are communicating, but we're so.
So you can hear it does a great job of taking that out. Now we're going to try the new one in 9. And we go back here to here.
Because they can speak, they can communicate. It's been proven.
With those same settings and best, we'd be looking at this. And you'll see people have commented it does take a little longer. Also, people have commented that it's worth it. But you decide here.
Yeah.
Because they can speak, they can communicate. It's been proven time and time again. They are communicating, but we're so blocked.
So that is almost all of it out, and you hear a little artifacting in the voice. I would probably go in this kind of range. And another good way to do it, especially if you're giving a demonstration in front of a lot of people, would be to use the compare functions, where you can line up a whole bunch of them. While you're doing one, you can start comparing the next and then go back and hear them all.
Because they can speak, they can communicate. It's been proven time and time again. They are communicating, but we're so blocked.
And to me, that is something that would work really nicely in this situation here, if we put that back in.
Because they can speak, they can communicate. It's been proven time and time again. They are communicating, but we're so.
So because he's moving around there, it's all fitting in there pretty good.
In a lot of cases, Dave or some of you are going to be working with longer swaths of audio or pieces of a scene or a recording that you've ran a ton of processing on. Maybe blanket processing like declick, breath control, DS, decrackle, mouth declick. You might run both of those. So all of these do an amazing job at getting rid of some things, but in some cases it might take it a little too far. And in other cases, there might be something on scene that you actually really wanted, like a thump or a mouth smack that is visually important for the scene. So what we've done is in the corner in the history there, if you bring a piece of audio over to the audio editor, after you do some processing, you can pick a selection. So visually, if you know where a breath is, or you know where a click is, or you just want the full section, like Dave, you could even run maybe de-rustle or dialogue isolate. And let's say you wanted to bring something back in. You make a selection. So for our purposes, we can just use the full spectrogram there, yeah. And then you would go over to the history. So you now have the part you want to bring back, and you hover over that last state. So in this case, we only have 2 states, so hover over initial state. We have a little circle here. If you tap that, it's going to bring back just your selection to the state that you've selected. And you can layer this as many times as you need and to back to any state to get the best performance, I guess I would say, the best combination of processing to go back to those steps.
I've run into this on those exact sort of things you were talking about, where you might basically want to take out all these lip smacks, and there was a whole bunch of them, and so I just quickly went through and did like a decrackle. And then I see that there's one that I actually really want back because it's more editorial. It's making a statement, and it's right on camera. And so I can see, and in the past I would have gone I would have just started again and avoided that part. And so now I will try this new version. So everybody, that was my first time checking out the new restore function, but I can see it's going to be a good one.
We have a question. Can you please go over the process of adjusting the threshold in Ambience Match?
think this is the perfect question for Alex to address. If you, I don't know if you have your visual ready for tonight, Alex, but
Yeah, I don't have the visual,
okay.
unfortunately, but the process is you adjust the threshold and click Learn and check your display whether you have any unwanted dialogue in your ambience, and you adjust the threshold until there is no dialogue, but you're still learning from just the ambience. This is basically a way to exclude dialogue or maybe some louder sounds from being included in what is synthesized by the Ambience Match.
Dave, this one's at you from Ken. Do you ever use the Audio Suite versions of the plugins or always bring it into RX Connect?
Hi, Ken. Yeah, thanks. I do use the Audio Suite quite a bit. I typically do that mostly for things that I know exactly what to expect in their behavior. For example, the decrackle, derustle. I use those so often that they're usually sort of whatever Pro Tools calls it, safed from being replaced. So they're littering my desktop with the audio suites of those two in particular, Dialog Isolate often, and when it's a little bit trickier stuff or things that I want to experiment with to see what kind of sounds we can get out of them, then I will bring it into the main program. So I'm really back and forth. I always have Connect open. I always have usually decrackle and derustle often.
And I will say, when I go to some of the LUTs onto some re-recording mixer stages, it seems like it's a mix depending on what job you're doing or what you're working on. A lot of re-recording mixers are working primarily with Audio Suite and running DeHum and Ambience Match and Dialog Isolate that way. If you're doing a little more dialogue editing that day, dialogue editors tend to live in Connect. And Dave, I've seen you do both.
Yeah, it just goes back and forth, and it often depends on the situation too, whether you're in a temp dub and moving as absolutely quick as you can, or if you're getting ready for the final dub and spending a lot of time on it. So I think time-saving wise, it's a fewer clicks to use the Audio Suite plugins.
Okay, I have another question here. I have a project, this is Phil Allen. I have a project with mumbling nearby crowd noise while interviewing a single person on a handheld mic. Since their frequencies are similar, are there any suggestions on how to remove the background noise?
Almost all of these answers are, my answer is going to be, yeah, you have to experiment. And I would probably start with Dialog Isolate, but I would also think about the spectral, the denoise. Instead of the voice denoise, maybe possibly the voice denoise and also spectral denoise, where you can sample the background that you want to lose. And so if that babbling crowd noise was somewhat constant, and you were able to get a good sample clean, you might be able to whip that through it and possibly then Dialog Isolate too. Sometimes little bits of a bunch of different modules tends to work really well so that it doesn't crush it. You might have, often any one recording is going to have a bunch of different issues. It might also have a lot of sibilance and have some wind bumps on the mic as well. So all of these things, I haven't found one solution. It's usually experimenting and taking a whole bunch and deciding how far you want to go down that hole.
Are there new derustle features? Is there a better way of using derustle? I haven't always had success using that feature. That's from Julia Caruso.
So in this release, there are no updates to the derustle feature. Dave, from your experience, and then maybe we could pass it to Alex after, are there cases when you might use derustle versus Dialog Isolate?
Absolutely, yeah. I was sort of in a similar boat. where I hadn't quite figured out how to make D. Russell work for me, and now it's one of my main go-tos. And that is, I'm going to give a little shout out to Ron Bartlett, the mixer who we just did Dune and King Richard, and on it goes, a bunch of shows in a row. And often it's just a very powerful one, so you have to be really careful with how much you're trying to extract with it, and maybe you just grab a portion of the audio. So, yeah, I've kind of turned around on the D. Russell, even though they haven't made any changes this time. I've been using it quite a lot more than I had in the past over this last year.
And Dave and I were chatting yesterday. There might be a case. Let's take D. Russell versus Dialog Isolate, for example, where you wanted a little bit more of that ambience and some of the movement, the non-stationary noise. You might just use D. Russell to attenuate the rustling, but keep the rest of that noise that's not rustling, but is unique, that Dialog Isolate might be too heavy of a hand for. That might be one case that you might use that for too. And then Alex, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I actually wanted to add, just a few hours ago, one beta tester of RX9 has commented on the beta forum, new Dialog Isolate equals awesome D. Russell. And I will not disclose any further details because they're confidential, but I've already disclosed the biggest one. The beta tester really liked how new Dialog Isolate behaves for D. Russell. And he wrote that the older Dialog Isolate was not as good as in D. Russell, but the new one just replaces the module for him in his use cases. So it's definitely a module to try now.
I have another question for Dave. Would you auto level before or after isolate? Also, what auto level is there? With auto level, is there a threshold to keep intended ambience not shooting up?
I often do kind of get the dialogue into a place that is at least within a ballpark of where it's finally going to be. And that will reveal a lot of things. It will reveal how much background comes up with it, how much other noise that you're dealing with. And so, yes, I will generally level, and that including going right in if there's some really loud sound, something that really just pops through and it's going to have to be taken care of, I'll just do that first. And, and I will still sometimes, if it's just a low rumble that was occurring, and I might just use a one-band high-pass filter on something just to make the job of the next of what iZotope's going to be working on, what RX is going to be working on, to make that a little bit easier. If I know that there's something, all right, I don't want that at all down there, and I know that these got to be within this range.
Are there any improvements in music rebalance?
That's a quick question. We currently do not advertise any improvements to music rebalance, but I can mention that we have a slight improvement in quality of music rebalance. In the higher quality modes, we have a little bit of less high frequency artifacting with the music rebalance. It's going to be a minor improvement, but maybe worth noting for some of the permanent customers of music rebalance.
Dave, how do you utilize Ambience Match, for creating fill tracks for M&E delivery?
Yeah, quite a bit. It's made that job a lot simpler. So for those that might not be familiar with what's required of an M&E, which is the non-English version of the mix that we produce with every single movie so that it's ready to dub into all the foreign territories. I imagine most of you know that. And what happens, if say you're on a lot of the scenes in a movie like Dune are huge music, huge effects, and the dialogue kind of just pops in. I'm not worried about the fill for when we take out the dialogue, when we take out the English. But when it's a quiet scene that may have had a lot of background noise, which we liked, Well, when you take out the dialogue and all that goes away, we need to replace that center track and make sure that the new dialogue in all the languages is going to sit into the mix and sound similar. So, or maybe we love the backgrounds. Maybe the background is a big part of the soundscape of, the center track dialogue, actual production background. And in that case, we need to fill those whole scenes for the M&E. And as you can see, the new complex mode is worth spending the time, I think, to really, on the right background, to create that and suddenly have massive, as much of it as you want, really, instead of painstakingly going through, finding a few frames or hopefully a couple seconds where the crew and everybody wasn't chatting away, and building that by hand. So it's been a huge time saver in general. But often in my workflow, I'm building fill as we go, and so sometimes it's already there. And then I can just kind of stretch it out for those scenes while trying to retain as much movement, things like that. But every version, this keeps getting a little bit closer to getting exactly where we need to go for the M&E. And we usually don't have much time on the M&E mixes.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much, Dave and Ryan and Alexey. Thank you guys so much for being here, for sharing RX9 with us. Where should people go if they have more questions? Because that's what happens when new stuff comes out. What's a good...
Totally. I think the best place to go to first would be iZotope.com. If you want to go straight to RX, just go iZotope.com/RX. And if you have any detailed questions about your unique loyalty pricing as a customer already, or any issues at all, our customer care channels are always open. So thank you for joining us tonight. It was really an honor to be here. Thank you, Dave, for joining us, and Alex.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys. And to
Thanks, everybody
at home, if you want to catch up on some LAPPG meetings that you might have missed, head to our YouTube channel. Up now is our August meeting, hybrid production workflows with OWC. And we had Stephen Najelski and Sam Mestman here. And they showed us some really cool hybrid workflows. We talked a little bit about the jellyfish and some other really cool products they have. So for sure, check that one out. And we have 65 other videos, so you will find something of interest, I'm sure. And I also want to invite you to connect with us on Instagram. We're actually on all of them, but if you're on Instagram, welcome. We would love to connect with you, and we will connect back with you. So we also want to thank our partners, our gold level partners, Adobe, Blackmagic Design, OWC, and Zeiss, and our silver partners, AJ Video Systems, iZotope, SGO, and Reduct. And we have a lot of other companies that help us. We have supporting partners, media partners, and community partners. And it's through all of their support that the group continues to grow, and we thank them and we appreciate them. Be safe, be well, and thanks again for being here.